The Beef and Barnsey Show, brought to you by Bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Road to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
What's going on, people? How are we this fine morning? Am I on? Yes, I am. So, what's been going on? How are we doing? Nico, good morning. How did the trios go? That is a good question. I'm just wondering why that. There we go. How did the trios go? Well, it went okay. I mean, I bowled the finals, so that was always a good start. Yeah, it was a very strange finals format. Getting rid of all of the pins from the qualifying, and then trying to figure out getting three of you lined up when you don't get to choose who gets the extra shots and stuff. So that was that was a little strange. It was fun. It was a fun event to bowl. Whether we do it again, I don't know. I think if we do, it will be a slightly tweaked format. You didn't see me throwing the Idol Pearl in match play. It wasn't ready to go yet. I did throw almost everything I owned because we were really struggling that second block. Hey, Derek, I sent you an email. Check your email. Hey, Renee. Nice to see you from Germany. Morning, Joe, Jason. Yeah, I enjoyed making it. Chris isn't coming on today because he's currently bowling. He started 264, 214, which isn't bad, which is put him fifth right now on the squad, so not bad. Hey, Chris, going fairly well. Morning, Adam. No. What happened was it was on a rotation, so every player bowled 5/10 frames. So I believe it went senior, lady, regular, senior, lady, regular PBA was the order it went in. How do you compare the Idol to the Summit Ascent? Are you talking about the original Idol or Optimum Idol? I mean, either way, Summit Ascent is cleaner. Yeah, it's definitely cleaner. That R2S cover as opposed to the Microbite or whichever nano cover we're talking about. The R2S is definitely cleaner. Yeah, Optimum Idol. Yeah. Yeah, the Summit Ascent is cleaner. It probably, it's going to be less overall hook, but probably a bit more in the back 30 feet of the lane. Hey, Henry. I would think with your ball speed, the Optimum Idol Pearl will probably roll a little better than the solid. 14 mile an hour ball speed. Yeah, I mean, you're pretty close to matched. I wouldn't say you're rev dominant with 250 RPMs for sure. Yes, the Optimum Idol is quite pretty. So just let me take a drink. Cheers. Okay, so Jonesboro. Let's quickly run through the balls and stuff I use in Jonesboro. Shout out to Frankie Lavoie, Tom Hess, and Brianna Clemmer. I blanked there for a second on their win, but let's break this down. So in qualifying, we bowled day one. I was kind of in the I used a lot of the Ion Pro and XL were two of the balls that looked pretty good for me in qualifying. Um, Especially Ion Pro. It allowed me to get a little bit further left without the ball kind of really burning up too much. Um, Used a couple of different ones. And then the next day, so first day I used Ion Pro, a little bit of a tension star, kind of going back and forth, tension star with surface. I drilled an XL because everybody was making that ball look fantastic. Kind of got myself in a little bit of a mess game one. We started on 3 and 4, which was a pretty tricky pair. Lanes broke down really quickly, forced me way further left, which the whole point of drilling the cell was to try and allow me to use a little bit more ball speed and something to burn up a little bit, to keep it kind of in front of me a little bit more, but didn't really work out. Kind of got back on track next game with the XL. Game after that, we hit a pretty dry pair, struggled a little bit, got back on track using a different Ion Pro, and then finished it off with the Ion Pro. It was, yeah. So got through. The main balls that I used were the Dual Attention Star, Ion Pro, and the XL. Smoother, more predictable ball motion was the order of the day for sure. I bowled with Frankie. He tried to use a few different balls, but mainly ended up using the Ion Pro. So that was kind of how it went for me. It took like 120 over to make it for 10. Hey, Stoney, what's going on, my man? Hey, Irvin. Two-handed righty, 26 kilometers, 415 RPMs. Currently have these balls in my bag. Helios, Ion Pro, Pitch Black, Journey, Plastic. Looking for 2 new balls. Any suggestions? I'm just trying to work out what 20 kilometers is. So 16 miles an hour. 16 miles an hour, 415. So you're a little on the slow on the ball speed wise. I would suggest Helios, Ion Pro, Pitch Black, Journey, Plastic. So it's probably going to be Journey, Helios, Journey, Ion Pro, Helios, Pitch Black. So you're going to need something. I mean, depending on how much oil you come across, I would think you could do with something a little stronger than the Journey at the top of your bag. So that would be something asymmetrical. Dependent, it could be absolute power. It could be if you absolute power would be a solid choice, or the XL. That would be where I would go at the top of the bag, and then towards the bottom of the bag, I would look for something a little cleaner. I would consider a Hustle, Hustle RIP maybe. That might be a little bit too angular. But yeah, I would consider something a little bit a little bit on the weaker side below the Ion Pro. But really, it depends on where you feel like you have any struggles. So let me know whether do you feel like you struggle more on drier lanes, or figure when there's too much oil. So just let me know in the comments, and I'll try and keep an eye out for you, and we can kind of dial it in a little bit better. What's going on, Chris? Frankie would never needed to be in the tour trials because he has multiple titles, so that wouldn't have affected him. Where would XL fit? I have Reality, Hate, a Sensor Solid, Theorem Phase 2, Venom Shark, X1, Envy Tour. I would think that it would be just below the Reality would be kind of where I would have it fit. I think it's going to be a little bit earlier and a little smoother than the X1. that'd be kind of where I would see it fit. Depending on how old your reality is, you might see a bit more motion out of the XL, but realistically, the reality is supposed to be stronger. Yeah, realistically, that's what's supposed to be. Yeah, I think a good fit creates that. So yes, in general, yes, I feel like I do. It says, do you have equal grip tension for both fingers? Yeah, I think I do. Dan says, how does R2S compare today to R2S a few years ago? Has it got stronger as time has changed and they've improved the process? Yeah, I think I think that would be fair to say. I think that it's constantly, in my mind, the covers are constantly evolving. So you know, R2S of 10 years ago isn't exactly the same as R2S now. Materials get a little different, better. The process is a little more refined. So yeah, I would say it's definitely a little stronger. Glenn, nice to see you. He says, Frankie Ball, great. Do you think his success had anything to do with less rev rate going down the lane? Perhaps, but I mean, it was a team tournament, so it's really hard to put it all on, you know, Frankie. I think that they, as a group, the three of them were able to match up together pretty well, and they were able to get a better read of what the lanes were doing. And I think that that helped them to be able to stay in a more similar part of the lane. They had the girl who could hook it, maybe the lady who could hook it maybe the most. I mean, her and Jordan Richard for sure. And that allowed them to get a little bit closer to each other. Tom and Frankie's games, rev rate and kind of wise, are kind of similar. They're kind of matched up. They seem to cross together quite often. So I think all of that rolled into one. I think Frankie just made better shots the whole time. I don't necessarily think it was wholly like less rev rate in the finals or anything like that. Having difficulty, hey Sean, he says, having difficulty basing new decisions off older balls. Which current balls in the lineup is closest to the reality check? We get this one a lot, which is surprising because the reality check didn't really seem that popular at the time. Reality check was quite unique. I don't think there's really a ball that's that close to the reality check right now. Yeah, I don't think there is anything that's really that close. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe if you shined up an absolute power, you might get a little closer. But I mean, if I had to choose one of my feet to the fire, I think probably the DNA coil is the closest. But reality check was kind of a unique motion. So, yeah, we don't really have that motion now. Hey, Adam. Well, you wouldn't forget. He says Chris Barnes won on the Dick Weber last year at the PBA 50. Well, that's good info, Adam. Thanks for letting me know. Hey, Joe, what's going on? He says, morning. I've heard several talks about my swing getting too steep. Been struggling lately, and maybe because of this, feels like I'm kind of pushing the ball into the lane. Exclamation. So when pros are talking about their swing being steep, what they really mean is that they're quite late. So they're pulling it down from the top. So then, as opposed to it being like kind of a sweeping motion, let me just take your super chat down a little bit. So I suppose their swing being like this. So there's like a kind of almost a little bit of a flat spot. It's more like a triangle. So it's like that. So what ends up happening is you pull down from the top of the swing and you get late. And that kind of can promote a couple of different things. Swing. So when Ronnie's not bowling very well, he struggles with the lane hooking so much because his ball goes straight down into the approach a little bit. And that's kind of what you're talking about. For me, the easiest way to feel like I'm going to stop doing this is to try and stand a little taller, keep my chest up for a little longer, because most times what causes your swing to get really steep is by leaning too much. So as you go down, you lean, and of course your backswing goes up. So if you imagine, if you're like your backswing's here is my finger. As you lean forward, the ball goes up higher and higher and higher. So if you lean more, it makes it harder to stay in time because the ball is higher up as you lean forward. So it's got more distance to travel. So your brain is a wonderful thing, and it's not going to let you be like half a second out of time or whatever the amount it would be. So you just pull down from the top. And that's what causes some of that. So just try and keep your chest up, stand a little taller through the first 3 steps of your approach. And I think that should help, Joe. But thanks for the super chat. I appreciate you. I'll see you around. Oh, that's great to hear, Stephanie. Thank you. Stephanie got the beanie from our website. Yeah, we added those a few months ago. So that's kind of with that. So appreciate you supporting the channel. Hey, Casey, I missed your first comment. Were you talking about the reality check? I don't know. But anyway. Hendershot, I don't know you particularly care for. I know you don't particularly care for the exotic gem, but how does it compare to the new Idol Pearl? I don't think it's that close. I think the exotic gem is much closer to the harsh reality Pearl. I've got some video that I'm going to put up in just a second. Which ball do you guys want to start with? Let me know. Do you want to start with the Summit Ascent, which we already have the review up on our channel, or do you want to start with the Optimum Idol Pearl? Let me know. We'll see what the comments say. But we'll break down one of those balls first. So let us know which ones you want to see first. 3G's B says Baker's video helps with timing. Yeah, it does a lot, actually. It's surprising. It seems like everybody's interested in the Idol Pearl. So, as per normal, I picked the wrong ball to put the first review up on. So, just 1 second. Right. All right. So you're struggling with flooded lanes. So definitely consider something like a gem. A gem is the strongest ball we make. So gem would be the option for the biggest one. XL is another option, a little bit of a cleaner cover. Yeah, they would be 2 balls. If you're going to do a tropical surge, let me just get the name of the one. Storm started making surges back at Storm HQ again. We are hearing a lot of good things about one of them, and I just want to get the exact color. It is Tropical Surge Purple Navy. It's actually it comes with a little bit of surface on it as well. So I think that would be pretty good off the pitch black. It might be a little weak, but I think with your rev rate, it might be worth a good try. So, yeah. Well, that might explain it then. Just like I say, Joe, just try to keep your chest up a little bit through those first 3 steps, stand a little taller, and I think it'll allow you to like drive more into the foul line. No problem. That's what we're here for. I appreciate you watching the show. All right, so here we go. Sorry. Wow, we are really cooking with gas here. There we go. So this is the Optimum Idol. It's on like a broken down house shot. Like I say, for me, it's very much reminiscent of the Zen. It's a really, really strong, shiny ball. Doesn't tend to miss the break point very often. I do feel like it needs a little bit more breakdown than the Zen needed on the lanes, though. But when you get it, I feel like you can really take advantage of it. Chris has been using it a little bit on the long pattern in practice this week. He said he really liked the shape he was getting out of it, so that's something to watch out for. Yeah, overall, I think it was a nice addition. I want to go a little steep. And a nice addition. It's definitely different from the other symmetrical balls that we have, so that's always nice. Adding some different reactions in there. Definitely got the giddy up if you get left and slow down a little bit. Yeah, like I say, for me, I'll have that video up probably tomorrow. I've just got a couple of finishing touches that I want to add to it. Storm B says, how would you compare the Optimum Idol versus Sublime? Sublime's wearing out. I think the Optimum Idol is a little bit more angular. I think the Sublime is a little more smooth. Yeah, I think the Idol you're going to see more downlane motion out of. And I think that the Idol might be a little stronger overall than the Sublime. Yeah. That's kind of how I see it. I haven't actually had them both on the lanes at the same time, though, so take it with a little bit of pinch of salt. Idol Optimum Pearl, anything similar to the original Zen? Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. I actually think it is the closest thing that I've seen for a while to the original Zen. Something you can leave shiny, but picks up early enough with having that microbyte cover. I think that's what are we calling it, microbyte? I feel like I'm really not doing very well at keeping up with this stuff. Optimum Idol. What are we calling this cover? Micro tracks. Sorry. Micro tracks. I'm like about a decade out with microbyte, but micro tracks. I feel like that really strong cover with a low RG symmetrical ball with a core is an interesting combination and very reminiscent of the Zen for me. Hard to put it up against a ball that was as great as the Zen. Zen was almost a goat by itself, but yeah, overall, I think it is comparable. I barely grazed the cover just to take the very top of the polish off, but I mean, it still looks shiny. Like for me, it doesn't really compare because it's symmetrical versus asymmetrical, but Vibo is longer and quicker. Stands up harder. Again, another one that I wouldn't necessarily do. Asymmetrical versus symmetrical is always very different. I think that the Idol is probably a little earlier than the Attention Star. So will the Optimum Idol be benchmark ball to work your arsenal around? Not for me. I prefer a smoother ball for the middle of my arsenal. Like for me, my benchmark, the way I kind of see benchmark balls is my benchmark ball is the ball I'm going to use most often, almost, and the one that I kind of base the arsenal around, like you're talking about. So for me, I think that this new Summit Ascent is a better option for that. I also use the Absolute Power quite a bit in that gap. I feel like Absolute Power is a good, solid piece that I end up using quite a lot. So, yeah, I personally wouldn't. I wouldn't go in that direction with Optimum Pearl. Yeah. No, not really. It's similar color, but the Axiom Solid had a really that had another pretty strong cover on it. The Ascent is definitely cleaner than the Axiom Solid, with the Ascent having R2S on it. Yes, it is closer to the Summit Ascent is closer to the Ion Pro than I just feel like the gap that a lot of people were figuring that the Ion Pro was going to fit in. I think that the Summit Ascent almost is closer to that gap. Like I think it dead splits phase 2 and the IQ Tour, whereas I think the Ion Pro is like it's almost in its own category. It's a really different shape, and I love it because of that. Because we have so many similar balls, and the Ion Pro just isn't like anything else. It's it just gives a very unique motion. It never seems to stop hooking. For me anyway. I feel like I can use speed and really make it continue. I kind of have to use stronger layouts on it though. But that's the main thing for me is Ion Pro, I think using a little more surface than it comes out with and using a slightly stronger pin, you really get the biggest forgiveness and use window out of that ball doing that. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Daniel. The Ascent is like the step up from IQ Tour Solid before the phase 2. So yeah, it makes sense. It's got a weight block that's somewhat in the same realm as the phase 2, and it's got a cover stock that's the same as the IQ Tour Solid. So it kind of makes sense that it splits the gap. How would you compare the Ascent to the Road? I mean, they're miles different to me. For me, the Road is, I don't really know what the Road is. It seems like it's clean, but when I need it to be clean, it's a little early. Like that cover is quite strong when the lanes get drier, but when the lanes are tighter, it's not strong enough to make up for the fact that that core is quite weak. So for me, the Road isn't really a very good matchup. The Ascent is a ball. It's like a symmetrical XL or absolute power type of deal. I just never get to use it that much. In recent times, though, I've been using them a little more. I just don't tend to need balls that are that much weaker. So a standard layout for me is usually about a 5.5 or a 5 3/4 inch pin to pap. Probably like a 3. The first one will probably be like a 3-inch buffer with about a 4.5 inch mass bias. Whereas so it'd be like a 5.5 by 4.5 by 3. Whereas in the Ion Pros, I'm using one of them is 4 3/4 by 4 4.5 4 3/4 by 4.5 by like 2 3/4, and then a different one that I've got is 4.5 by 4 by like 2. So shorter buffers and stronger pins. So yeah, been kind of doubling up on making that a little stronger. Optimum to Super Idol, talked to Boomershine at local trade shows and got his opinion. Curious. I don't know what the Super Idol is, to be honest. So I don't know. What is the Super Idol? Depends how big the bag is. I think those balls are quite different. If you use the Sublime a lot, I think that the Optimum Idol Pearl would be a ball off it. If the Sublime is a ball that you don't use that often, then probably not. Oh, Idol Pearl. So Optimum Idol Pearl to Idol Pearl. I don't think they're even remotely close, to be honest. Yeah, the Idol Pearl was super clean for me. Much weaker cover, much needed to be used later in blocks. Yeah, that for me, they're not even in the same stratosphere. I don't know if that's what Hank said. I hope so. Don't want to get myself in trouble, but yeah, for me, if you're looking for an Idol Pearl replacement, it ain't the it is not the Optimum Idol Pearl. If you're looking for an Idol Pearl replacement, I personally think that the closest thing I've seen for that is an Exponent Pearl. But let me know if that lines up with what Hank said. I'm fascinated. Hey, Roger. He said he remeasured all of the 2LS layout to understand the dual angle equivalent and found all 12 of my balls are the 70 to 100 val angle. Would you recommend drilling a couple of balls? That doesn't really make sense. I think you've got that wrong. Because if you were using 2LS, I would expect you to have way smaller val angles, not way bigger val angles. Yeah, because yeah, because if you're using 2LS, most of the pins are really high on that layout system. So that wouldn't be a 70 to 100 val. Yeah, let me know. Yeah. Sorry, already question. Right. Let's flick along here a little bit. Ascent is stronger. Yeah, stronger overall. I felt like the Exponent was a really small step up from IQ Tour. So this is another step from that. You definitely wouldn't need all three of those. The Idol Pearl is more ball than all of those, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, maybe not 100%, not that much more than Summit Peak, but I think you'll see something a bit earlier. With it having that, what I think is a stronger cover. So yeah, I think it's stronger than all of those. Daniel, I'm a rev dominant two-hander IQs, low diff balls in general. I'm using my go-to. Would the Ascent be close to that, or it'd definitely be a noticeable step up? Have you tried a lightning blackout just out of interest? Because that's an interesting ball, and people who kind of like lower diff balls kind of like that. My wife really likes it. She likes the hustles as well, so she has that as a good step up. Exactly what he was saying. Yes. Idol Pearl is weaker overall, and a huge step up is the new Optimum. Yeah, makes sense. Sorry, Terry. I was getting to you. I appreciate the super chat, but I was getting to your question. But thanks anyway. Let's dive in a little bit. He said, I had knee surgery 8 weeks back on the sliding leg. Would love recommendations for returning to league tournament shape. Prior to surgery, ball speed 15 miles an hour, 380. Well, I think bowling is all about your legs. Now, I think that you're a little fortunate here if it's your slide leg, because I think that although you put strain on it, I think that a lot of the power that people create comes from their off leg rather than their sliding leg. So I think that knowing when you're at home about kind of like doing the exercise the doctors are telling you and really getting that leg strong again, I think that as soon as you can like put the weight on it and feel comfortable, then I don't know that bowling is going to make it that much worse. Having not had knee surgery myself, I wouldn't claim to be an expert, but I do have a lot of issues with my ankles. And for me, it's a lot easier to deal with ankle pain on my left ankle than it is on my right ankle. When I had issues with my left ankle, it didn't really affect my bowling that much. However, when I have issues with my right ankle, it really screws me up. So I'm hoping for your sake that's similar, but please don't rush back. Bowling's always going to be there. Take your time. Like I say, make sure you do all of those exercises they're talking about, really build up the strength in that part. And then once getting back to it, I feel like when I have a break, I try to do short sessions, but much more often. So, maybe bowl, depending on how much access you have or how much time you have, try and just bowl a couple of games a day to build it back up. When I'm coming back from a little bit of a break, I almost sometimes do 2 sessions a day, but much shorter sessions to get the feel back. I feel like when I bowl for too long, I get really fatigued is the wrong word, but definitely it takes more of a toll after you've had a big break. So yeah, short sessions, but much more often. It would be my advice for that. But thanks for the super chat and good luck, and let us know how it goes. We have a lot of people asking about how to come back from surgeries, what they've done. So you being part of the community and providing some feedback on what you'd seen will be valuable for more than just yourself. So appreciate you. Good luck. Let us know how it goes. What is the difference? It's kind of the difference you'd expect it to be between, a shiny and a dull ball. The idle pearl is more down lane motion, more for once the lanes transition a little bit. Yeah, I don't think there's any shocks. Yeah, they are pretty different, but yes. Yeah, to me, they're not that close. The attention star being the asymmetrical ball, cleaner cover. I feel like it transitions a little faster. It tends to get a little bit more forward. So yeah, to me, those two balls aren't really close. I wouldn't really ever compare those. I think it's just different, Bob. Yeah. I really think I think that the attention star might cover more boards, whereas I think the idol might be a little earlier. So it's hard because I would never take both those balls on the lanes at the same time. Vibo is definitely cleaner and sharper than the DNA. I like Turbo switch grip. I've been with Turbo for a long time. It's the least hassle. There's only really one part that can break, whereas with the I've seen a couple of other issues. And sometimes, most of the time with Turbo, it's just a case of if something breaks, it's going to be the thumb, and then you just take it out and you put a different thumb in, and you can still use the ball. Whereas some of the times with the it breaks in a way in which you need the Pro Shop to kind of change out the bottom piece and stuff. So, in my opinion, having only used switch grip, it's a little biased in the same way Chris's would be a little biased. I just find switch grip easier. Yes, we're talking about the new pink idol. Yeah. How does the old H2 compare, Dexter H2 compared to 3G heels? Is the H2 the brown one or is that the orange one? Because I think that the orange one is the stickiest. Then I think that 3G's heel fits in between 3G's stickiest heel. And then I think it's the maroon looking one from Dexter. I think they're like 1, 2, 3 in that order. It is cleaner than the original than the Optimum Idol. Kind of no real surprise. I think it's fairly comparable to a Zen in terms of motion. We're not going to label it to be the replacement for that ball, but it is the closest we've seen so far. Let's move on to the Ascent. Let me just share that. So this was filmed before the idol video. I think that this ball for me might end up replacing my phase 2. Just because in recent times I just haven't been able to use the phase 2 as much. There's still going to be a place for the phase 2, but when you're only taking sort of like 9 balls, for what I do and like my matchup with having a little bit more roll and not want to use quite as much speed, I feel like the Ascent is a good option. It just gives me something that's a little more usable in the phase 2 more often. And the spot where it wouldn't be as good as the phase 2, most of the time I'm using an asymmetrical ball anyway at that point. So yeah, that's kind of where I see it. I think it's a pretty good I think it works out as, for me anyway, as it would be a pretty good benchmark ball if I wanted to use a symmetrical ball for that. I think it fits kind of similarly to what Storm were describing the Ion Pro to. For me, the Ion Pro is a little closer to an IQ Tour than it is a phase 2. I think this one dead splits the gap. I'm quite impressed with it in that I'm also quite shocked. I wasn't necessarily expecting this ball to be one that I liked a lot. So the fact that I do is always nice. But I didn't go into it thinking that this was going to be a ball that I really liked. And so far, I've liked what it did for me. So we're happy so far. We'll see how it goes. I'm Stu, and I love the absolute power. Chris likes it also. Chris isn't here today. He is bowling. Let's see if we can get an update. Bless me. What we got? 3 games. Chris Barnes is in third, 7-12. So, hey Amber, what's going on? I hear about coming back from surgery. I just had rod, pins, plates, screws, and fusion done on my back in June. I have no idea when I'll start my comeback. I will say I'm getting really itchy to get back. I know I'm nowhere near ready though. Well, make sure you don't get back too early, and even consider maybe starting off with a bit of a lighter ball if you really get the itch. But please don't start before the doctors tell you to. Hey, Charmaine. I think that the effect is an asymmetrical ball, so I think that the effect is a little bit a little stronger overall. I think the effect is much more comparable to something like a DNA coil or something in that range. I think that with this being symmetrical, it's going to be a little bit more predictable in the effect, and maybe it'll be in play a little bit more. This ball, for me anyway, the closest thing to the Zen is this Idol. I mean, I understand it doesn't come out till the 23rd, but yeah, this is going to be the one that's you're gonna wait for to replace your Zen in the current lineup. For me anyway. Chris, I have a DNA coil Vivo Absolute Power XL. My question is, should I go harsh reality, Pearl, or Attention Star? I think you've got a lot of balls in the same area there. I definitely wouldn't go the Attention Star. If you want to get one of those three balls, I think based on the balls you have already, you have to get the harsh reality because it's the only one that's going to be significantly different. I think I think Absolute Power and the XL are quite similar. So yeah, having the harsh reality at least separates them a little bit more. Terry, I'll definitely take it easy. First night of League is tonight. By the way, I was on the pair to your right at Emerald for the PBA 50 back in 2020. I remember jumping you once. Sorry. Yeah, Terry, I'm like super chilled about jumping. So you know, don't worry about it. Good luck tonight. Let us know how it gets on next week. Compare the Absolute Power to the DNA. Is that the original DNA or the DNA coil? The DNA wasn't a great ball, to be honest. I think is the best way of putting it. We never really got to use it very much. I've actually used one a little bit on short patterns subsequently, but that was just didn't really fit anywhere. Yeah, the original DNA. I think that the Absolute Power the Absolute Power for me is more usable, more continuous than the DNA, a bit more overall motion down lane. DNA is earlier, kind of a little less. Yeah, the DNA is kind of a weird ball, to be honest. Kind of hard to see exactly where it fits. For me, it was very niche. And it's worked kind of well when I've shined it up and used it on shorter patterns. But apart from that, I never really get to use it. Whereas the Absolute Power is almost my go-to benchmark, have it out the bag all the time type of ball. How do you combat carry down from Urethane? What is your plan of attack to help with that? Super depends on the pattern. But in general, I want to try and hook around that carry down and use it as hold. I would usually get a stronger asymmetrical ball. Like I say, depending on the pattern and kind of like, yeah, use a motion that would allow me to make the ball stand up, but like try to get kind of to the right of the carry down. And then if I miss in, I can use the carry down as kind of a hold. It is awkward, and it is the thing that changes the lanes the most is the urethane balls. So it is a bit of trial and error. Sometimes the quicker balls look better. Sometimes the others look better. So yeah, sometimes stronger ball, really early, like strong balls look better. It really depends on the day and the pattern. I guess Exponent is probably going to be a little earlier than the Iron Pro, and less, I would say less overall hook. I think the Ion Pro is cleaner and it hooks more down the lane. And I think it ends up being that you can cover more boards with the Ion Pro. I think the Exponent is like an earlier, smoother ball, but I don't think it hooks as much. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think the Ion Pro is a decent gap away from the phase 2. So if I wanted, yeah, I think what I would do if I wanted to use those three balls together, I would probably put more surface on the Ion Pro and try and make it a little stronger and maybe put a little polish on the Exponent, kind of move the Exponent down the bag get the Ion Pro a little closer to the Phase 2 would be kind of the direction I would go with that. Thanks, Henry. Yeah, let me get to your question here. Magic Gem, Exotic Gem, X2, X3, Reality Pin Down, Attention Star. Is there any room for an XL to replace anything, or just pick up 2 of these to haul around? Yeah, I mean, the XL would probably replace the X3 in that setup, because I think you'd probably have Reality and Magic Gem at the top of your arsenal. I think you'd have the X2 at the bottom of your arsenal, and then so it would probably go something like, depending on how old the Reality was, it'd be Reality, Magic Gem, XL, Exotic Gem, Attention Star, and then the X2 would be kind of where I would see them all fitting together. Hey, Slapstick. I have 325 revs and 17 miles an hour. I stay right and don't tend to go past third arrow in league. Which one? 325 and 17 miles an hour. Why does it have to be one of those 3? I personally think if you don't really want to move left, I guess probably the Exponent might be the best of those 3, but I think I think an Ion Pro might work out quite well for you, because I think you'll see a little bit more down lane motion out of that than you will out of the other 3. So if you do get an Ion Pro, drill it a little stronger. Are the TNT infused and Optimum Idols anywhere near close to each other? Not really for me. I think the Optimum Idol's a decent step up. I guess it depends on how many balls you had. But yeah, for me, I could see a world where you'd have both of those, and if they got a little close, I'd just add a hair of surface to the Idol Pearl, and then I think it would gap pretty decently from the infused. Yeah. Hey Travis, anytime. Thanks for supporting the show again. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really know anything about that ball. I barely ever see anybody use that of the pros. Is the Magic Gem stronger than the Attention Star? Yes. Definitely earlier. Is there a symmetric solder that would pair well with a DNA coil? Any brand? I've been researching it all. I can't decide. I think that this new Ascent might be okay for that gap. I like pairing the Absolute Power with the DNA coil, and I think that the Ascent is going to be the closest thing to an Absolute Power symmetrical core wise. Similar cover, kind of a strong symmetrical core as a strong asymmetrical core. So yeah, I think that I think the Summit Ascent would be a good option off it. One Row says, how many games do you feel are enough to justify replacing a ball? I have at least 300 games on my Ruby. It still rolls well, but maybe a bit less reaction down lane, debating on getting a new one. It'll definitely have less reaction down lane after that many games. You could, for me, you could replace it and almost keep the other one if you're still getting a decent motion out of it, and then you could see the difference. But yeah, a new Ruby is probably going to be a little cleaner because you won't have as many scratches in the cover, and then it's going to come off it like way harder. So yes, I think you could justify it pretty easily. I have an XL for early. I changed to symmetrical solid normally. Okay. Makes sense. No, wrong question. There it is. I have an Excel game 1. I normally switch to symmetrical solid, and if need be, I have plenty of pearl options, then gold and CNC infused. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I still think that I think that the XL and the Iron Pro pair well together. Actually, I've been using those quite a bit because they'd just come out, and I was kind of moving around on a bunch of house shot tournaments, and I've been using both kind of interchangeably. So I think that that would be a pretty good option. Go with the Iron Pro off that. So, does anybody have any more questions? Because I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you to everybody who's been joining us. And once again, congratulations to Frankie, Tom, and Brianna on their win. The women start, I think, practice is today. I think practice is today for the ladies. So, and a replacement for an X2. Chris talks about this all the time because he really likes the X2 also. I think the only ball that can logically have a chance is the Vibo, although I think that the Vibo stands up a little harder and doesn't necessarily continue as much as the X2. So yeah, at the minute the Vibo. Did you ask a question, Mark? And I haven't answered it because I don't see it. How would the Journey and the Sublime compare? I actually think the Journey wouldn't be miles away. I thought the Journey wasn't that much. I didn't think the Journey was that far away from the Zen. I think that the Journey is probably a little cleaner than this new Optimum Idol, but only a little bit. So, which one? On the singles and doubles, I really liked. I mean, obviously it worked out pretty well for me, but Absolute Power and the DNA Coil both look really good. My wife shot 300 with Reality, so kind of those smoother, bigger, asymmetrical balls look good on the doubles pattern. On the singles pattern, sorry, on the doubles and singles pattern. On the team pattern, a little more awkward. So, yeah, probably some smoother, weaker balls would be good, like IQ Tours or maybe the Summit Ascent. Yeah, 340, 15 miles an hour, Magic Jet and Vibo. Need something in between for Monticelli pattern. 14 pounds, wrist injury. In between a Magic Jet and a Vibo, you could go with a DNA Coil. I like that ball a lot. My wife also throws 14, and she likes that one quite a bit as well. So that would be that would be my go-to for that one. Another one you could consider is the Attention Star. That ball looks pretty good. Monticelli pattern has worked. That ball's worked on that one pretty well also. So, all right. Thank you guys for watching. There would be no show on Thursday. I'm taking my son down to a water park as it's the last few days before he goes back to school. So we'll be back next week. We might try and get Frankie on. And if you get a chance, please support the businesses and the companies that support me and Chris. They are Storm, Rotogrip, 900 Global, Coolwick, Bowlers Mart, Turbo, Firelight Bowling Center, Lightning Strikes, and of course our buddies up in Terrell, Platinum Ford. They have TNT infused and they have clones right now, as well as their patented tire spare ball if you take a test drive and you are a member of the USBC. So check that out. They have some deals coming through. Always coming up to Labor Day, a good time to get a deal. So with that, I will see you guys later. Take care, and thanks for watching. Check out the Storm Ascent video on our channel, and look out later this week for a Optimum Idol Pearl video. All right, take it easy, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.